It's Rob!
Tony! And I'm Jeff.
We're in gaming.
And that's you.
Welcome back, gamers, to the inn. I'm Warshack, of course, or Rob if you want to call me that. And today we're going to be knocking out my favorite class to play, the Druid, but more specifically, Ramp Druid 2.0. This deck is a little on the expensive side, but you will definitely enjoy playing it when you can craft it, or if you can craft it, or whenever you decide to craft it. Like I've said, really fun deck, and I like the fact that it has a lot of options to it, like the Keeper you can silence, or you can damage, Living Roots, you can deal 2 damage, or you can summon little Rootlings. It's just, and the ramp portion of it, you just blow your opponent out most of the game. Really good stuff. So, if we looked at my hand, we actually got rid of the Savage Roar and the Swipe, and we got back a Savage Roar and an Innervate. This isn't terrible. It looks like the Savage Roar wanted to stick, but the Innervate's awesome. The Darnassus is something you always keep in your hand, and the coin is going to allow us to coin out the Darnassus Aspirant, which will allow us to maybe, just maybe, keep that Mana Crystal long enough to summon a Shredder a turn early. So, depending on what this Hunter plays, we'll be able to Living Roots it. Oh, never mind. Actually, we still might Living Roots the Mad Scientist. So if we actually kill off the Mad Scientist, and then we swing into the Hunter, and it's a Frozen Trap. Wow, Hunter's marked the Darnassus already. He really wants that dead. And we drew into a Shade. So Shade, turn 3, following curve. But we can actually... It's my favorite thing to get the Darnassus Frozen Trapped back to my hand, because we actually keep the Mana Crystal, and it's a free Wild Growth. So we're actually going to kill the Mad Scientist, see if we can get a Frozen Trap to pop out, attack with the Aspirant. If it gets sent back, that's fine, we keep the Mana Crystal, but if not, and it's an Explosive Trap, we lose the Mana Crystal, then we'll have to coin out the, oh man, so it is explosive, so it died. So we're going to have to Innervate out the Shredder. This was the plan B of the situation. The plan B is still a plan, and it's still something good. Being able to Innervate out the Shredder on turn 3 for him, 2 for me, is not that bad, and also puts a lot of pressure on the field early game against a Hunter, which is something you always want to do. A lot of people say the Hunter matchup is really hard for a Druid or even a Paladin, and that's because you need field control 100% of the game. The second you start losing the... Oh, wow, he used Kill Command on the Shredder. That's good for us. That's a lot of burst from him. Unfortunately, our Shredder drop isn't that great at 2-1, but it's still a creature on the board, allowing us to hopefully... Yeah, the Hunters don't really have anything great to deal with 1-drops besides, like, Unleash the Hounds, which on 2 creatures would be kind of silly, but it would be like a last resort kind of thing. So if he uses Unleash the Hounds, holy shit. Alright, so it looks like it's a last resort kind of thing for this guy. He has nothing else to play. We're one in the face. Alright, we can accept that. So we actually have... Okay. So Innervating out the Emperor here, that was a really nice draw for us. Unfortunately, Emperor's value isn't a ton. It's only going to be 1 card in our hand, but I suppose... Putting a body, I don't suppose, putting a 5/5 body on the board is better than just sitting on the Innervate and the Wild and the Savage Roar to wait for, you know, more cards to hit our hand to play on curve with the Emperor. Huffer, the only thing to come out of the Animal Companion, he plays another Mad Scientist, and he's probably just going to go face, yeah. So from here... I think a Savage Roar is in order, because there's no real way to kill that Huffer without killing one of our creatures, and we obviously don't want to lose field control. We still have a decent amount of health. So I think using Savage Roar to put 13 damage on him, killing off the Huffer, is a good plan here. And we'll also be able to passive to get ourselves to 20 health. So we still have 66% of our health left, and we put 13 damage on him, allowing us to, if we draw Force of Nature, we put him in lethal zone. Along with that, he's going to be scared because he knows the combo is coming. I'm running Druid, and he has 2 pretty beefy creatures to deal with. Alright, so he's going to swing his Mad Scientist into our 4-1. He's probably going to kill off the Shade here with something. Shredder, and then passive? Alright, so he actually didn't kill off the Shade, which since the first trap he played was explosive, we can only expect this one to be frozen, but we'll check with our passive just to see if it's like maybe a bear trap. Okay, so it's not. So it's either a snake or a frozen. We'll swing with our Shade, because if we swing with the Emperor, we obviously don't want that going back to our face. Alright, so it's a freezing trap, which is fine. We expected that. Swinging for 5 to the face, and we'll end our turn, and then... Actually, no, we'll play Shredder, and then... End our turn right away. Gotta go fast. No, play Shredder. And by the way, guys, I actually do play a little bit quicker than some. If Play to your playstyle. If you need to rope out every turn, okay, that's good. He didn't win that joust. If you need to rope out every turn, do all means. Check every play you possibly can. I don't know. It's just a habit of mine just to play a little bit quicker, but it's just kind of my playstyle. It makes in my opinion, it makes our opponent say, "Oh man, this guy really knows, you know, how to play his deck and do everything quickly." Because when people take oh man, the hunter just gave up. Okay, that works out. It's just yeah. So sorry if I play a little quick and I don't know, talk fast or whatnot, but that's just my playstyle. Can't really do anything about that. So heading into game number 2, if we didn't mention this before, all of our deck guides, we do 3 ranked games in a row. We talk about the deck, we talk about why we do what we do inside the game, along with the opponent, kind of analyzing their deck, and then we'll actually save talking about the cards that are specifically in my deck one at a time, going down the list at the end of all 3 ranked games, because those of you who already know kind of the gist of the cards and how to play them, you guys don't need to listen to, you know, what cards do what. So we'll save that for the end so you guys can just see how the deck is played and how you play it against particular classes. So we're actually going against Hearth of Stone. So this is a mighty opponent. We will have to defeat him. We're probably just going to get rid of everything in his hand. The Shredder is something we could keep, but we don't have an Innervate, so it doesn't make sense. We also don't have a Darnassus Aspirant or Wild Growth, and we still don't have those cards, which is not good. This is actually going to be a pretty slow start against a warrior. Normally, putting out I don't know, even a Darnassus Aspirant, even if it gets the War Axed, it's still a good card to kind of throw down, because if they don't have the War Axe, you're able to curve into some of your bigger cards sooner, especially if you get like a Darnassus and an Innervate, or a Darnassus and a Wild Growth. Those are, again, 2 of 3 cards that you're looking for in your opening hand. I might have said this already, but I just want to kind of clarify. You always want to mulligan for the Darnassus Aspirant, the Wild Growth, or the Innervate. If you get one of them, or even 2 of them, you're in a good situation. If you get one, that's still good. At least you have something, unlike me right now, which we just have a Living Roots, a Swipe, and a Shredder. So normally people would probably Living Roots to throw out 2 Groots. I kind of want to hold on to it, just because we have nothing else to play really that early on, and playing it wouldn't have been bad to summon 2 Groots, I guess, just to put some pressure on because we don't have anything. I don't know, it's a hard decision to say, but probably throwing out the Living Roots to summon 2 Groots is probably the better play there. Yeah. So we'll passive, swing for 1, and end our turn. Obviously, turn 3 we're going to play Shade, turn 4 is Shredder, and then turn 5 is maybe Swipe and a Living Roots if he plays like maybe, if he plays Emperor. It'll all depend on that. There was a topic I wanted to talk to you guys about while this guy. So he's coining into probably an Acolyte of Pain. You know, the only real 3-drop warriors have besides the shield block. Shield block, 5 armor draw card. But like I said, we're just gonna throw down the Shade. Hopefully it doesn't die to like double Whirlwind, but that'd be really dumb of him to use. As of now, we're kind of prone to, like, let's say he uses a Taskmaster on the Acolyte. We're not really sure. Okay, so he throws down the Armor Smith, which is a great 2-drop. And he played it off the top of his deck, which shows me he may not have a great so let's hope he doesn't have a weapon right here. He most likely has a War Axe, or at least a Death Spite, because he was able to draw quite a few cards to this turn, and he's had, you know, the 2 opening turns to draw. So he most likely has a weapon, unfortunately, but we definitely needed to kill that Acolyte of Pain without a doubt because of Taskmaster and because of the Whirlwind effects warriors have. Ideally, we wanted a Keeper there just to silence it, and then we could have kept our Shade in hiding, but we didn't have that option, and the Acolyte just did the die. So probably what this warrior is going to do is just Death Spite into our... I mean, Shade would be ideal for him if he did. So we keep Shredder up, so the Shredder's going to obviously swing into the Armor Smith. We'll probably play our Fang because now if he swings his weapon into our 4/6, even when the Death Rattle hits for the +1 damage, it still lives. So he's gonna have to use something to deal that 1 extra damage to our taunt card to get through to our Shredder if he's trying to kill both of them. So if he swings into it with his weapon, they'll actually both be at 1 health. And if he's running Patron, which we're not sure yet, he hasn't really played any distinctive cards. If he plays Sledge Belcher here, we'll know for sure. Or maybe even a Shield Slam, we'll know for sure. So if he Shield Slams this, which I think that's what it is, because he targeted, so he has some target card in his hand. We'll be able to tell, we'll be able to tell kind of what he's playing. And if he is playing Patron, the Ancient of War will be great. So he bashed. So I feel like this is most likely going to be Control Warrior we're playing. Oh boy. And this 4-3 may look like a great card to come out of Shredder, but unfortunately, let's say if he shield slams and he has like 20 armor, I'll take 20 damage. So I've actually seen a warrior win by this. So he had like 25 armor, and he was able to shield bash the 4-3, and the 4-3 states when it takes damage, inflict that amount of damage onto yourself as well. So we're actually going to take 1 damage here due to the death rattle from the death spite. Yeah, this guy is potentially could ruin us, but he has no armor, so I think we're a pretty safe spot. So I think we're just going to aspirate here. We'll summon 2 1/1s. The fact that we drew into his second Force of Nature tells me if he doesn't play a taunt next turn like a Sledge Belcher, we can win due to double Savage Roar. There was also no other play there. We didn't have to play the Living Roots, but the fact that we have a double Savage Roar, that's a lot of damage right now. This is 20 damage just from Savage Roar, because it's 2 damage each. There's 4 creatures and my character itself. So that's 10 damage, and then we have 5, 6, 7, and then 8 with our passive. So we actually have 28 damage right now. If he doesn't play
What now?
that'd be a pretty crazy ending right now. I mean, it's not insane, but I mean, it's pretty cool.
For
okay, so it looks like we were able to win due to the double Savage Roar and our little Groots that are going to be 5/1s. The Force of Nature is also really nice, but we don't need it. We just need the double Savage. So this is going to swing for 8, swing for 6, swing with our little Groots that are 5 each. Oh my god, this is an insane amount of damage. Oh, the Ramp Druid comes in to be the Control Warrior. I mean, you can't really expect the double Savage Roar. Like, he could have maybe played around it. I mean, if he had a taunt, but even, I don't know. I don't think I would have expected it. The double Groots down on the field was a kind of a weird play. So even if he had like a Whirlwind or something to at least kill 1 or 2 of my creatures, he could have easily kind of avoided that. But some don't expect double Savage that early in the game, at least. So heading into our third game here, going against the Paladin, we can expect either Control, Mid-Range, or Secret. It's most likely Secret, and we were able to draw a double Aspirant, Innervate, and Nax. I think we're going to keep it all. I don't have a problem with any of these cards this early on in this game, because we can, and we'll get the coin. So we can actually coin into an Aspirant, we can Innervate off start to the Shade, then play an Aspirant, and there's a lot of options we can do here. And I think our best bet's probably just coining into the Aspirant. I don't see a problem with doing that. Another Shade. Oh, man. Innervating into Shade isn't bad, but coining into Aspirant is bad. Just to put a 2-3 on the board that we can attack with right away. And if he kills it or wastes, you know what? We could actually Innervate into the second Aspirant. But I think we sold it. Yeah. So Innervating into the second Aspirant, we would have had 4 mana, and obviously we don't have a 4-drop, so it would be a little bit pointless. So there's the Force of Nature. So we'll play the Shade here, and swing into this Divine Shield. Actually, no, it's kill the Divine Shield, because if he Blessings it, Kings it, it'll be bad. But I don't think he's gonna be running. I actually can't run Kings. I meant Might. So we kill his Silver Hand. Our Darnassus is safe. But I like to pop Shield. But we don't need to pop it yet because he doesn't have enough mana for Kings, and also he doesn't have coin to coin into Kings. I don't know why I said Kings. I meant Might, but I know he's not playing Might. People haven't played Might in a long time. Okay, so it doesn't look like this guy has much, and the fact that he hasn't played any secrets yet may tell me he's playing mid-range. So we're gonna passive to blow off that shield. Then we're gonna use we can play the Darnassus and Innervate into the Wraith or the Wrath. My bad. Maybe we'll draw first. Yeah, let's draw and see what we get. Swing for 2, obviously. We'll have the Savage Roar. Actually, we'll kill off his 1/1. So we can't Kings. And end our turn. Or we can swing for 3, or we can Innervate into another Aspirant if it dies, and then we'll be able to play a 5-drop next turn. Because obviously, maybe a Consecrate. We'll be prone to a Consecrate. Well, no, actually not, because it's only going to kill 1 creature. I just don't like holding on to Innervate this long. It just feels wrong. The whole point of the deck is to ramp, but we don't really have to ramp that hard right now, because we already have 2 creatures on the board. And I left my Shade in the shadows just because of True Silver Champion. So if he True Silver Champions my 2-1, which he, okay, yeah. So that was I'm glad we were able to keep the Shade shadowed. Because him killing a 2-1, really not that big of a deal. It got its value by killing the 2-1-1s, which cost him 4 mana, and then another 4 mana to play True Silver. Man, so if we use Innervate, we're actually losing a mana on the Druid. But I think it's a good play here because we play it. There's no way for him to attack the Shade, which we're going to attack with now. So if we wouldn't have played the taunt, you could have True Silvered our Shade, which would have been bad. So since we are able to taunt, even if though we wasted a mana crystal doing so, we kind of put a body on the board in front of the Shade, and now we're going to be able to attack twice with it. So him putting down a secret is really interesting because we haven't seen anything yet. So he might have just started off with a really bad hand. And our Druid is going to live. Our Shade's going to be 5/5. We have a Savage Roar now. We actually have double Savage. So we're going to swing with our passive. Not a noble sacrifice. We'll play Shade. Actually, we'll play Shade with Curve. There's no reason not to. We'll swing with our 5 and swing with our 4. There's no reason to attack him directly. I mean, attack the Shredder. Because the Shredder is going to have to hit the taunt anyway. And then putting 9 damage on him this early, turn 5 is really nice. So he has Doctor 6. We obviously know what he's going to do here. Or the full Christmas tree. He kept his Shredder alive, but this is going to be game anyway because we have Force of Nature, which is going to allow us to attack with one of our treants. It's going to pop all this shit, but that doesn't matter because we can attack with everything else on the board, which will be game. So that actually was a pretty quick game against Secret Pally. His hand honestly wasn't terrible. I mean, his early game wasn't great, but he had the 1-1 with Divine Shield, the True Silver Champion, the Shredder, and Doctor 6. So it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't, he didn't have that crazy early game opening and a crazy middle and, you know, middle game. He had an okay start with a good middle. But we had a really good start with the double Aspirant, the Innervate, and double Shades. That allowed us to pick up that win. Okay. So now we'll talk about the deck list a little now that we were able to pick. I think I said now way too much. Anyway, or 2 times in a row. Anyway, we'll talk about the deck and why I have what. We actually didn't get to see a ton here. And also a thing, I might switch out the other Wrath with, no, the other living, the living roots I have in the deck. I might actually switch that with a Wrath, because what I was thinking of all the 5/4s that are out right now, the Savage Combatant. What is another one? I don't know. We'll just throw the Savage Combatant out there since I was playing Druid. There's just TGT brought a lot of 5/4s, and I found that like when we play Azure Drake in the deck, because there is 2 of them, we find we have a lot. When we have Azure Drake, our 2 main damage spells are Wraith and Swipe, and we normally have Swipe on maybe an Emperor or some of the higher creatures, or even them directly, because it'll do 2 to everything else if Azure Drake's down. But if we have the Wrath, it'll do 4 damage, and most of the time it's able to take out a 4 or 5 drop. Because of just the Azure Drake bonus to it. But if we have the Living Roots, even though the Living Roots allows us to summon Little Groots that ended up allowing us to win the second game, and it does 3 damage for 1 mana, which is insane value. I just feel like Wraith is just a little bit better in regards to what people are playing right now. So if the deck list has 2 of them, I decided on that change because we did see the Living Roots in the games we were playing now, because I'm actually running the Living Roots now, but I actually might change it. That's what I've been thinking about, a small change in the deck, because I've been running 1/1, but I might just run 2 none. We'll see how it is. If you decide you want to run 2 Living Roots, that's fine. I've kind of stayed on the subject long enough. We'll get into the deck. So let's sit up straight for this. The double Innervate, the Wild Growth, and the Darnassus Aspirant, like I said, those are your ramp cards early on that'll allow you to play your Azure Drakes, your Piloted Shredders, your Keeper of the Groves, and your Druid of the Claw really early on, and off curve by like a turn or 2 ahead. And this makes it so your opponent not only has to worry about the board that you have, they also have to worry about combos. So it's like in combination with huge creatures and the 14 damage combo through Force of Nature, Savage Roar, it's just really hard to keep up with the Druid once they've got, you know, the turn ahead or the 2 turns ahead that you'll get from the Darnassus Aspirant, the Wild Growth, and the Innervate. So those are just 3 of pretty much the starting cards that you want to aim for that'll allow you, which is why it's called Ramp Druid, to kind of, you know, finish the game ahead of your opponent and get that step up. Running the Savage Roar. This is, we actually skipped over Wrath, but Wrath or Wraith. I'm just going to call it, fuck it. doesn't matter. So Savage Roar, this is combo Force of Nature Savage Roar. I'm not even going to talk about that. The Big Game Hunter, this is something that is kind of like a tech card. You don't have to play it, but I found that so many Demon Handlocks. There's the World Championships are going on right now, and everybody and their mom is playing Demon Handlock. And what comes with Demon Handlock is all those, I keep hitting the table, my bad, is a bunch of 8/8s. And those are really annoying for this deck to get past because there's no real removal in this deck. There's no sheep, there's no polymorph, there's no sheep and polymorph, same card. There's no polymorph, there's no hex, there's no soul siphon. So Big Game Hunter is the only real answer this deck has to those huge creatures with taunt, which, Demon Handlock gives, Defender of Argus and Sun Fury gives them. So normally, this deck really struggles with kind of getting around huge taunt creatures. The Big Game Hunter allows this. But, I mean, if you find you're playing a lot of Warrior, a lot of Rogue, a lot of Paladin, they're not playing these huge creatures, you can exchange that with a Harrison Jones. Not too bad at all. But for now, just because of how many the Demon Handlocks I'm seeing, I mean, even in Secret Paladin, when they, all the Avenges pop and it hits onto their 6/6, when the Avenge goes onto their Mysterious Challenger, it ends up being like a 9/8 or something, which can then be Big Game Huntered. So playing it really not that bad of an idea, and it kind of saves you from, playing Harrison, which is a legendary, and this guy's just an epic, so it saves you some gold. But he is interchangeable. The Shade of Naxxramas, I actually stopped playing this card for a while due to how slow this card is. Normally you want it, well, our first deck guide, you never attacked with it at all until you're going for that lethal, or it was pretty, at least a 6/6, so it could hold its own and get the value from it. But now it seems to be a card that has come back into the meta because the meta has slowed down just a little bit. Not a ton, but I would say I definitely been seeing a lot less of the hunter, the face hunter, and more, mid-range hunter, and, more mid-game decks. It's not all about, Zoolock and face hunter anymore. It may just be me and what I've been experiencing on ladder, but for the most part, it's slowed down enough to throw this guy back in the deck. And honestly, the deck really doesn't revolve around him having to be invisible anymore. You can kind of make valuable trades with him, or kind of, the first game we had, he tacked into a 1/1 hound, but he was also a 3/2, and we know hunters, there's no real way to get rid of a card on the field besides like quick shot or kill command, and them using that on a creature instead of our face, that shows us, they're having to deal with cards and they're not getting what they want because they're having to remove, the creatures on the field instead of having creatures on the field already and hitting your face. So we've kind of seen this guy return, like I've said, really nice card, and playing him is not a bad idea anymore. The double swipe, this is pretty standard any Druid deck. It's clear, it's essential field clear, but it's a great card, but I don't know, it's no Flame Strike. The Keeper of the Grove, we've seen this in every Druid deck, and the option with this card is the silence or the 2 damage. We didn't get to play it a whole lot, or I think at all in any of the games that we played, but most of the time this card does come in pretty clutch, and if you're playing against a Paladin deck, make sure you use it on like a Tyrion. It's good against a Sylvanas the Windrunner. So just be cautious of kind of when you normally don't use this card for the 2 damage unless you're like clearing maybe a Knife Juggler or a card you got down with swipe to 2 health. So just make sure you're using this guy to get the most value out of the either 2 damage or the silence. The Piloted Shredder, the 4-drop, the Dr. Boom of the 4-drops. There's no replacing this guy. The value out of him is so strong, and he's actually the best, in my opinion, the best 4-drop, non-class specific. So heading to the Azure Drake, due to Druids having almost little to no draw, hold on, he allows you to draw 1 as soon as he played, so he's automatically going 1 for 1. He gives you +1 spell power. I need to stop hitting the desk. He gives you +1 spell power, which allows your swipe to do 5 damage to target whatever it hits, and then 2 damage to everything else, which is insane. And then with our 2-drop spell, it allows it to either do 4 damage or 2 damage, and you draw 1, or of course Living Roots, it does 3 damage, but it doesn't affect the Groots whatsoever. So, +1 spell damage, as we know, it's great for this deck, and the draw is also amazing. Druid of the Claw, this is the amazing 5-drop the Druids got. It's able to turn into a 4/4 Tiger with Charge, which will allow you to Savage Roar and use it with that. It's great with pumping out that extra damage due to Force of Nature, Savage Roar, whatever combo you fit in with it. Or it can turn into a 4/6 taunt, which is most of the time it'll turn into that 4/6 taunt. It goes around Despite, so they can't kill it with that. Normally, Sludge Belcher dies to the Despite with 1 charge left because the Whirlwind kills it. So this guy actually with that 6 health lives. The Force of Nature is, again, it's just a staple in the deck. Emperor, this is one of those decks that Emperor really benefits from. Having an Emperor down on the field with at least, I would say, 3+ cards in your hand. Ideally, you want 4 to 5, but even at 3 cards, Emperor in this deck is just insane. If you have the Savage Roar or the Force of Nature or both of them in your hand, having them cost 1 less is a huge winning condition. It just keeps stacking. The percentage, like, it's insane. So I'm sure when you play this deck, let's say you have an Ancient Allure in your hand, or Dr. Boom, or Force of Nature, and Savage Roar, and they just keep getting discounted if they can't kill that. Emperor is just huge, like I've said. So yeah, it's an amazing card in this deck, just like Freeze Mage. It has added a lot to this deck, and without it, I think it's a huge disadvantage. I think is the best word to put it. So this is just one of those cards that if you don't have Emperor and you plan on playing Ram Druid, definitely work on it. You can run it without it, but it's definitely, I would say, one of the key parts. Ancient of Lore, I wouldn't say it's as important to Force of Nature, Savage Roar, but I would say in combination with those, it is very good. The Ancient of Lore, running 2 of these, I think this is, again, one of the best 7-drops class specific. I would say even in the top 5 non-class specific. It's no Dr. Boom, but allowing you to draw 2 in a deck that doesn't have a lot of draw really is awesome. And the fact that this deck with the Wild Growth and the Innervates, those are cards that you use, but you don't get any initial benefit out of them besides the fact that you get an extra mana crystal. But when you work towards the bigger creatures and you do not have the hand to work with anymore because you've Innervated, you've Wild Growth. Those are 2 cards, let's say you've used that you've gained. You haven't decreased the amount of cards on your opponent's side of the field or their hand, but you're now able to play a card sooner that allows you to replenish the cards that you use that haven't allowed you to have any benefit. So the Ancient Allure, great card, and probably one of my favorite 7-drops. Also, if you're low on health, you're allowed to heal with him for 5. Oh, well, allowed. You have the option to. So if you're going against a face deck, he can help you out. And the Ancient of War is something that we've also not seen a ton of in the past, but he's been popping up more recently. You don't have to run this guy. The fact that we have 4 7-drops is a really big deal because if you get 2 or 3 of these in your hand at one time, this will slow everything down and you'll most likely lose the game. So hopefully you don't get jogged down with the 7-drops. But if you're able to kind of space these out and you don't draw them all at the same time, just a 7-drop after 7-drop after 7-drop is just so amazing for your tempo and your field, for your opponent to keep up with. Plus he's a 5/10. We're talking about the Ancient of War. He's a 5/10, so he can't be big game huntered. And you never turn him into a 10/5. That is a mistake. I've seen some people to use it. 5 health just isn't enough. He's just too easy to kill. A 5-drop can kill him. A Shredder can almost kill him. So actually a Shredder and a ping from a Mage's Fireball can kill him. So make sure you're always making him into a 5/10. And if they silence him, he's still a 5/5. So, and again, Dr. Boom. This is your best 7-drop in the game. If you don't have Dr. Boom, that's just one of the cards that you definitely need to work on getting. You can't go wrong with him. He's I would say a winning condition in a lot of your games. I mean, this deck doesn't revolve around Dr. Boom, but normally if you can play Dr. Boom on turn 7 and your opponent doesn't have anything on the field, if they also don't have a big game hunter in their hand, which is, again, it's a card game. If they do, they do. They don't, they don't. Most of the time, you'll win. If Dr. Boom can swing on your opponent one time, it's most likely going to be game over for them. So that pretty much wraps up the deck. I'm sorry if this was a little bit lengthier than some. This is Druid is, again, my favorite class to play, so I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit more, and I have a little bit more to say about each card and kind of how to use it, more so than some other decks I don't play as often, but I do know how to play them. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all being here, leaving comments, and subscribing. It means a lot to me, and it shows me, hey, people are actually enjoying what I'm putting out there, and it's actually genuinely helping you guys become better players, which is my overall goal from doing this. Yeah, this isn't for me. This is for you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll continue to enjoy it. So, like always, thanks for coming by the end, guys. I am Warshack, and happy whatever the hell day it is.